Hey everybody, hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday evening. A wonderful Thursday evening. It's almost Friday. Hey, hey, hey. What's up, Funkbot? What's up, everybody? Well, I just heard this crazy news. Hey, Janet. Janet! Hey, Colton. Hey, Felix. I just heard this crazy news. I don't know why we hear so much about celebrities' health, medical health, and mental health. We don't hear a lot about mental health in general, but we hear a lot about medical health. Hey, hey, everyone. And it's a good thing. People are always like, why do we have to know everything about celebrities? Why do we have to know every single thing about their lives? Well, celebrities' lives affect us very much because we learn a lot. They're the only people who are willing to be public about their problems, and you get to learn a lot from the mistakes of other people, and celebrities are kind enough to put themselves out there and let us learn a little bit from their lives. Hey, docs.com. So in case you're wondering what I'm wearing, this shirt, it says it's American Rebel. I actually got it from PragerU. It says, free speech doesn't offend me. Free speech doesn't offend me. And in case you're wondering why I'm wearing this shirt that says, free speech doesn't offend me, the reason is because I wanted to stand in solidarity with all these unfortunate journalists and YouTubers who were the victims of the latest YouTube purge, either demonetized or banned or, basically lost their entire livelihoods from YouTube, and just in an instant, for totally arbitrary reasons. A lot of them don't even know why. Totally just demonetized. And it is really, really sad to watch. It's very difficult to see people lose everything in an instant just because with no warning. Jesus says, hey, hit the like button. Always, peeps, or you're gonna get HPV. Exactly. Jesus knows what he's talking about. You're gonna get HPV if you don't hit the like button. And you don't subscribe. So do it. Dark State News says, Ben Shapiro nice in person. Ben is actually very nice in person. He's much nicer than he's much nicer than his internet and video character. He was a really good boss to me. He's a really good boss to a lot of his people. That's why a lot of oh my god. That's why he's got a lot of fans in person, because he's a good boss and a good friend. So, but it makes me really sad. Free speech doesn't offend me. It makes me really sad to see people's entire livelihoods just be thrown in the garbage for no reason, for reasons that they have no idea. Like Ford Fisher, my friend, actually, Ford will be on our show next week, Monday, and he will tell us a little bit about what happened to him. Ford is one of the journalists, from what I understand, Vox, the media company Vox, is, they have a problem with independent journalists, apparently. They had, this guy, Carlos Meza, which apparently, he has blocked me from following him on Twitter, which makes me laugh. So this guy, Carlos Meza, and I never even met this guy or had anything to do with him online or offline. He sorry, I keep getting distracted because I'm doing this on my phone and suddenly I'm getting a bunch of text messages. I should have disabled text before I get on. Vox. So actually, the Vox, some of you are asking about the Vox strike. Okay, the Vox strike is unrelated, but still like indirectly related. So Vox, they basically go on this war against independent journalists, is essentially what's happening. People are like, oh, Vox is left wing and they're fighting the right wing, and I don't think it has to do with right or left. I don't think it has to do with politics. I think it has to do with money. Vox is a corporate media company. Independent journalists are a big threat to Vox. Vox is doing entertainment and media and stuff like that, and now they're losing a bunch of business to these little guys. The little guys, these random little internet people like Ford Fisher. Ford, he's totally crowdfunded and YouTube monetized. He makes his money basically from YouTube, and he basically he makes all these videos, he does them himself, and instead of getting their news from places like Vox, which pours so much money into their news, places like CNN and all these other news places, they're getting it from little guy Ford, who's a one-man band. He goes to different places. He pays for his flights by himself. He goes to different places. People pay him money, and he goes and he films big events, and he's always there on site. He's always 100%. He's always he always knows what's going on next. Every time I talk to Ford, he's like on the scene at some place. And Ford is not partisan at all, and I know this because I'm his friend. He doesn't have he's a libertarian, but he's not like aligned with Democrats or Republicans. He will go anywhere, and and that's him. But he won't, especially like, even though he's got these like libertarian political views, he won't bring it out. Nothing that he believes is controversial, and he won't even involve his politics in his work at all. He just goes on, and films things. And he, for no reason, was purged from YouTube, his monetization. So I don't think this has to do with politics. I really, really think it has to do with money. Everything comes down to money. Corporate media companies, their biggest threat is little influencers, the little guys, who happen to be mostly right-wing because right now most of these corporate media companies are Democrats. They're heavily leaning left, and the little guys tend to be mostly right-wing because the right is right now in history, the right tends to have less power. They're the populist class. They're the ones who are forced to leave corporations and do their own thing, be independent, because they're being kicked out from all these corporations. So it happens to be that they're mostly the little guys, but even the left-wing little guys, they're lumped in with the right and the reason is because it doesn't have to do with political views. It has to do with the corporate class waging war on independent media influencers, on the non-corporate class. And mainstream media does have an agenda, and it's not necessarily it doesn't necessarily have to do with political views or values. It has to do with money, because independent influencers are taking away their business. People like Ford, these little guys who make a couple bucks from YouTube. They make they make a couple bucks. They're making a good living for themselves, but not a lot. YouTube does not, if you look up online, these really famous YouTubers, a lot of them are not living rich. They barely make it, and they're happy that way. But these people with just a little money, they're creating the kind of content that corporate media companies like Vox pour so much money into, and they still don't have the freedom to make the kind of content that these little guys make. So of course, they're going to be competitive and they're going to try and shut these little guys down. And YouTube is listening to them because corporations have alliances with each other. It's called crony capitalism. And basically, I'm so happy that the White House and House Democrats and Republicans are joining together to sue big tech companies for antitrust and for violation of antitrust laws, which is very good. Finally, they're cracking down. Hopefully it's going to go through, and hopefully they're not just doing it to like calm down the masses, because that's what they do a lot of things. If they don't do this, the people are going to rise up, and there are going to be riots in the streets, because this is huge. The economy is the number one thing that causes people to rise up. And there's going to be, after all these YouTube purges, these wars on these people who don't have money, who are just making a little bit, making enough to get by. After all these wars, trust me, there's going to be a huge uprising. The middle class is going to rise up, and it won't be good. And it won't be good, but it's kind of necessary, because there's no silver lining at the end of what these corporations are doing. Something needs to happen. So that's my little spiel. There's no warning. They're just nixing these little guys with no warning. Vox is trying to get all these other little guys deplatformed. And it's working. And you know what? They're just the epitome of disgusting, greedy monsters. Nobody likes them. Nobody thinks this is a good idea. Even their employees have gone on strike because they're paying their employees so little. These huge corporations are not only paying their employees peanuts, which is why they're all going on strike, they're making arrangements with, and it's not just Vox, by the way, all these big mainstream media companies, they're all doing the same thing. Vox is the latest. They're making arrangements with YouTube, and Vox is the one that you know about. They're arranging with YouTube. They've got these lists of little guys that they see as potential threats. They're just finding lists and lists and lists, and going after these little guys. These people are the epitome of greed and just monstrous. Like, I don't care how good the people are at the top. They're hurting people. They're hurting masses of people. And yeah, I don't care what happens to them. So that's my spiel on the big tech debacle, on Vox Apocalypse. And so I've been seeing this. I saw this headline about Marcia Cross. Marcia Cross, she's a lady from Desperate Housewives, a redhead lady. What was her name in Desperate Housewives? Anyway, she's a redhead lady in Desperate Housewives. And Eric says, what did I miss? Eric, you missed a little spiel on the big tech purge, the latest Vox Apocalypse. To sum it up, corporate media companies are monsters. They are losing business to independent media influencers because nobody cares about trad media anymore. And because they're losing business, they're doing whatever they can to crush the little guys. They will not win. They will die out. But on their way down, they're trying to take everybody down with them. They're trying to take all the little guys down with them. So I hope they die a very, very gruesome death. And when I say gruesome, I don't mean physically gruesome. I'm saying, you know, they're media companies. And it's already happening. You see their people already, you already see their people going on strike and all this bad stuff happening to them. Good. Good. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see their places burn in flames. Because they're willingly going after the little guys and trying to squash them for their own failing businesses. Okay. And not only that, not only are they going after the little guys and getting and just stealing their livelihoods with no warning, they're doing it with the name of hate speech. So Carlos Meza posts on Twitter mocking Jewish people. He's done it. Look, from 2014. One of you sent me the screenshot, actually, from 2014. Carlos Meza, this reporter at Vox, posted about Jews saying something about like some guy's Jewish face and his Jewish dick or something like that, okay? Mocking Jews, the way Jews look, okay? And then this purge, okay, is all in the name of getting rid of the Nazis and white supremacists. How evil is that? You know that's not their problem. If that was their problem, they would have gotten rid of their actual reporter who has mocked Jews publicly and said disgusting, it was a disgusting comment, okay? That's not their problem. And we know that's not their problem. They're getting rid of little guys who had nothing to do with it. They got rid of a history teacher who taught about the Holocaust, who didn't say anything that was even loosely related to being right-wing. He's just a history teacher. He's teaching the history of the Holocaust. Ford Fisher, he went to Charlottesville and he filmed a bunch of people. He wasn't like rallying in Charlottesville. He was a journalist who was there, who was just filming people. It's very infuriating when you see this stuff. Not only are people losing their entire livelihoods, being totally crushed without a warning, they're also being smeared so they can't find another job. They're being smeared as right-wing. They're being smeared as being white supremacists. They're being, not only are they losing everything, they're being prevented from getting anything in the future. These are the disgusting corporate media monsters. And I am so happy, I'm going to be so happy when they all go down in flames. Not YouTube or Periscope, because this is our platform. I just want them to put regulations on YouTube and Periscope. Really heavy ones. YouTube is the one that's allowing all of this. YouTube is the monster in chief, but unfortunately, we are all so dependent on YouTube that we can't afford YouTube going down right now. Google, we're all so dependent on Google. We have to little by little wean off of it, but it's like right now this is what we're all dependent on. If it went down, we'd have another place to rely on, I guess. You know, there are a lot of other platforms that are growing, alternatives to YouTube. There's BitChute, and BitChute, they seem like nice guys. They've made me an account. They've put all my stuff there. There's, Parlay. It's like the alternative to Twitter. So there's Telegram, which, Milo Yiannopoulos is on Telegram, so a lot of people have already been joining Telegram. There's Signal, which is like an encrypted way of communicating with people that is not going to go in any sort of big, corporate database or whatever. Okay, let's talk about HPV, because HPV is really a huge issue that nobody's talking about. Okay, let me read this article from page 6, which is the New York Post. Marcia Cross's anal cancer is likely linked to her husband, Tom Maloney's throat cancer through HPV. Husband and wife both have cancer, and it is likely because of the HPV virus, the human papilloma virus. They're both very public about it. It's okay that we're talking about it. They have shared their story with the public very kindly, because people are usually not comfortable talking about their STDs or their sexual health or whatever. So them talking about it will hopefully help a lot of other people. HPV is the most common sexually transmitted disorder. The former Desperate Housewives star appeared on CBS This Morning, Wednesday, to give a health update more than a year after her diagnosis, and shared that she and her husband Tom Mahoney's cancers were likely related. In 2009, Mahoney, 61, was diagnosed with throat cancer. Doctors reportedly told Cross, 57, she's 57 years old, that the same type of HPV that triggered her husband's disease could cause cancer in the anus. According to the CDC, HPV, the human papilloma virus, is the most common sexually transmitted infection in the United States. It affects around 79 million Americans. Aside from cancer in the throat and anus, it can affect the cervix and genitals, but can be prevented by a vaccine. I know there are a lot of people who are ashamed, Cross told CBS. You have cancer. Do you also have to then feel ashamed like you did something bad because it took up residence in your anus? I mean, come on. There is enough on your plate. The actress said she was able to get through a diagnosis with the help of a group of girlfriends whom she called her anal angels. Blah. She added, I kept saying that if this doesn't kill me, it's the best thing that could have ever happened, because the experience of being loved like that, it blew my mind. Both Cross and Mahoney are in remission. It's crazy. It's crazy how many people in the United States have HPV and we're not talking about it. So many people have HPV and we're not talking about it. 1 in 4, let's see. Okay, so around 14 million more people will get infected each year. It's so common that almost everyone who is sexually active will get at least one strain of HPV sometime during their life. There are over 100 different strains of HPV. Around 60 of those strains live on your skin, causing warts on your hands and feet. These are called common plantar or flat warts. There are 2 types of HPV. 2 general types of HPV. There's a kind that causes genital warts, and there's the more subtle form of HPV that doesn't cause genital warts, but it is high risk. It's the kind that can cause cancer. So you want to have warts, because if you have warts, it means you want to have the one that causes warts. You don't want to have the one that causes cancer. HPV is preventable with a vaccine. Unfortunately, a lot of us, including myself, and a lot of people that grew up in the religious community have not had the vaccine. And the reason for that is because if you are religious, you are expected to not be sexually active. And then so we got a lot of these religious kids who break the rules, and they go and they engage in sexual activities without having any education or prevention against STDs. So a lot of those kids are the vulnerable ones. You want to think that your child will never ever do anything that is even remotely sexual with any other child. You wish that was the case. You assume that your precious little angel will never do that, but this is the 21st century, and unfortunately, your child, as much as you can try to control it, you never know. So it doesn't matter if your child is an angel and you think your child will never have sex until they get married. Get your child the HPV vaccine. A lot of people are vaccinated from when they're children, from when they were born, but at least, before they reach the sexual age. Get the vaccine. You could be preventing cancer. Do you know that apparently they said like 98%, something like 98% of cervical cancers were erased because of the vaccine, after the vaccine was introduced? How insane is that? A crazy, crazy, crazy majority of cervical cancer cases were slashed. Of rates went down because of the vaccine. That means that you could be preventing cancer in your child by just getting the vaccine for them. I don't care if you are Amish or like Mormon or ultra-Orthodox Jewish or very, very religious Muslim or whatever, or you just don't believe in sex. HPV is very contagious. All you need is skin-on-skin contact. And all you need to do is go and get a vaccine for your child or for yourself if you're under the age of 26. I was lucky because I managed to get it last ditch before I turned 26. I'm not 26 yet. I'm almost 26. So Mike Carter says, similar to strep throat, there are types that will travel to organs like the heart without symptoms and kill you in hours. Hopefully you have a healthy immune system that will prevent it from progressing in a negative way. So the cancer-linked HPV, it's very little studies have been done on it. Unfortunately, isn't that crazy? It's such a common disease. It's the most common STD, and they haven't done enough studies on it, which is very scary. So just because you have cervical cancer, it doesn't mean that you will die. Very, very, very few cases of people with cervical cancer end up dying from cervical cancer. You have to be very irresponsible and never see a doctor in order to die from cervical cancer. You can, if you're female, you have to go for regular pap smears. Go once a year. Pap smear is when they stick it's like a big, huge culture Q-tip up your cervix, and they just like test the skin, and they tell you if you have precancerous skin cells. So HPV there are different stages of high-risk HPV. The first stage is the, I looked this up, LSIL HPV, which is the LSIL. Low-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. So it just means, so LSIL is like the first step that is caused by the HPV virus. That means that it's okay, not cancer. It is just the cells are abnormal. Then either it can go away, and this is what they find through a pap smear. They can find this through a pap smear. Then it can either go away or it can progress to HSIL, high grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. If it progresses to HSIL, then you hope that it won't progress to anything more. You hope that it will go away. Just like a strep infection should go away, or any other type of thing. If it doesn't go away, then the next step is cancer. I don't know why I just laughed, but I believe the next step is cancer, because HSIL is considered pre-cancerous. HSIL is sometimes called moderate or severe dysplasia. It is very rare for cancerous cells. Very rare. Okay, one second. Joe Anderson says, haven't had a vaccine since 2003. Haha. Good for you. As long as you are not having sex with a bunch of millennial kids, you should be good from HPV, from getting HPV. But always better safe than sorry if you are, especially in the younger generation, get the vaccine. Like, it's so stupid when you can prevent a very preventable disease that causes cancer. It's very stupid, especially if you're a guy. By the way, like, they always talk about women. They always talk about, like, oh, get a pap smear. It's all about women. Cervical cancer. First of all, because of all the research that was done for women, it's good that they're doing it for women, because it has saved so many women's lives. The vaccine has saved so many women's lives. But women can have the resources, right, to, like, women can get a pap smear. And it's so common in women that, like, a lot of women don't even know that they have it. And they go through their entire lives, like, never knowing. And then they have kids, and they grow up, they become old, they die, and they never even know that they had it. But the unfortunate few might be wishing that they had it. So, and it's very rare for a woman to, it's very, very, very rare for a woman to die from cervical cancer. Like, you have to be very irresponsible, and you have to be, like, smoking and drinking alcohol and doing drugs, and just, like, not taking care of yourself and being, like, obese in order for it to become worse. But most women, it won't happen to. And also, most women are not going to lose their ability to have children, because even in, like, the horrible, so if it becomes cancer, they have to just, the surgery to remove cervical cancer is so non-invasive. They just have to do, it's called LEEP. Let's see what LEEP, L-E-E-P. L-E-P. LEEP stands for Loop Electrosurgical Excision Procedure. It's a treatment that prevents cervical cancer. Small electrical wire loop is used to remove the abnormal cells from the cervix. LEEP surgery may be performed after abnormal cells are found during a pap test, colposcopy, or a biopsy. So actually, they can even do LEEP before it becomes cancer. Fardy Omni says, so a man can't get a pap smear. No, a man can't get a pap smear, and a man will never know if he has a virus. That's why I'm saying all this research is being done for women. The people who are at the highest risk right now are men. The reason isn't because the disease is tougher on men. The reason is because there's no way for a man to find out if he has it. And because there isn't a way for a man to find out if he has it, he will never, they can't find on your penis, they can't look. It is much, and it's much less likely, like much less likely that the disease will infect a man down there. But in the case that it does, you have no resources. You have no way of finding out, and the only way that you'll find out is when you get it, when you get the cancer. And the same thing with throat cancer, and the same thing with anal cancer. There's no such thing as a pap smear for your penis or for your anus or for your throat. There's no such thing. So you never know up until you get the cancer. And then once you get the cancer, you're like, it's so much harder. Alex Sfera says, this topic is refreshingly uncomfortable. I'm glad that you are comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. You don't have to have sex in order to get HPV. Isn't that crazy? HPV is such a contagious disorder. Even if your child is so religious, such an angel. My child will never have sex. My child will not even go there. My child, you know what, like, it's so contagious. Why don't you just vaccinate your child? It would be like so, you could just stop your child from getting an unnecessary strain of cancer. You could stop your child from having cancer. Seriously, guys. It's like, I meet so many people who are like, oh, you also never got the vaccine? I also never got the vaccine because I grew up religious. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like, why shouldn't we get it? Fardy Omni is asking all the deep questions. All the good questions. Where is HPV coming from? Okay, so where does HPV originate from? HPV, where did it come from? Yeah, all you have to do is touch. Literally, all you have to do is touch. Like, you don't even have to bleed or like touch saliva, or you don't have to, or like other fluids. You literally, all you have to do is touch, and you can get it, and you can get cancer. How crazy is that? It's crazy. And especially, you know, like, they don't even have LEEP, like LEEP, the this thing that I told you, LEEP surgery, the loop electrical excision procedure. It's kind of like a laser surgery that they basically burn off your skin. They burn off the part of your skin that has the abnormal cells. Like, you can't do that for other stuff. You can only do that for cervical cancer. So that means, like, people with throat cancer and anal cancer and all this stuff, they won't know until it's really bad and, like, they have, like, a lump in their throat. Or they're bleeding from their anus. I've heard, like, I have a friend who actually was got really sick when he was a baby from like the HPV vaccine, but then he was fine. I mean, that's like the worst case scenario, and that's like if you get vaccinated as an infant, but like you have all that other time as you get older to get vaccinated. So yeah. Okay, so where does HPV come from? Where did HPV come from originally? Historical information. The first time HPV was discovered was back in 1956 by a group of scientists. It was in 1984 when Harold Zurhausen discovered, cloned, and attributed cervical cancer to HPV 16 and 18. Through his research, he has contributed to the production of the vaccines. HPV can also be transmitted during birth to an infant, causing genital or respiratory system infections. The two types of HPV types 18 and 16, there are a bunch of types, there are a bunch of different types of HPV. The two types, 16 and 18, cause 70% of cervical cancers and precancerous cervical lesions. So there are a bunch of different types of HPV strains, but these two types are the ones that cause the most. You can, Fardy Omni says, through birth. Yes, it's not common at all, but you can transmit the vaccine through birth. Thanks for sticking around, by the way. Like, it's an uncomfortable topic, but it's so common. And, like, since a majority of you, if you have been sexually active, are gonna get it, or possibly might have gotten it without knowing. Especially men, like, you can't tell if you have it. There's no way to tell until you are growing a lump on your penis or in your throat. There's no way to tell. So, you know, everyone's like, oh, well, you know, I'm not getting it. I'm not, like, it's, you wouldn't know. And I don't want to be, like, fear-mongering because it's so common, like, people walk around, and that's like another thing. People are so fear-mongering. They're like, oh, cancer. And then, like, you just walk around thinking that you're probably going to get cancer. Colton Stone says, good thing I'm still a virgin. Yes, good thing, Colton. Go get the vaccine before you stop becoming a virgin. Go get the vaccine. Go get the vaccine before you stop becoming a virgin, or before you do any other act that might cause you to get skin-on-skin contact. Cooties. It's called cooties. Cooties is not made up. Cooties is a real thing. All you need to do is touch. That's cooties. You know, I grew up ultra-Orthodox, and we had, and a lot of Orthodox Jewish people are like this too, but it's like we had, like, you can't touch the opposite gender until you get married. And even when you're married, like, you have times when you can touch and when you can't touch. And that is so relevant when it comes to this. This is another thing that I don't get from anti-vaxxers. It's like, literally, the statistics are proving that cancer rates are overwhelmingly slashed. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. I don't think animals can have HPV. Infants with mothers who have HPV can get HPV, but it's not common at all. Don't be paranoid. Do not be paranoid. It's so uncommon. Your body's immune system is supposed to like get rid of it. The same way that your body's immune system is supposed to get rid of any other type of cancer. You are more likely to be hit by a car. Let's see. Rate of HPV related cancer. Okay. Oh wow. There keeps being new strains. New strains of HPV that they haven't done any research on. Great. This is so exciting. Wow. Okay. Rate of HPV cancer in United States. Or you know what? In females. Okay, HPV is thought to be responsible for more than 90% of anal and cervical cancers, more than 50% of vaginal, vulvar, and penile cancers, and 60 to 70% of oropharyngeal cancers. Wow. Can you imagine that without HPV, more than 90% of anal and cervical cancers would not have existed without HPV? Oh my God. Why are you guys so uncomfortable with this? I'm addressing something that's afflicting most people who are sexually active. The majority of people. I'm not on WebMD. I'm literally looking at the CDC website. It doesn't affect. It affects women more. It doesn't affect people less if they are different races. Like, it affects all races the same. All races the same. It affects men on a shorter scale. The only races that are like much less likely to get it are Native American and Asian. Native Americans and Asians are not sexually active. Don't walk around thinking you have HPV. So, chance that you will get HPV, get cancer from HPV. Up to 80% of women and men will contract HPV in their lifetime. Okay, why doesn't it say... Okay, about 10% of women with high-risk HPV on their cervix will develop long-lasting HPV infections that put them at risk for cervical cancer. So it doesn't even mean that they'll get cancer. It just means that they are at risk for cervical cancer. And they have to get LEEP. They have to get, it's a non-invasive surgical procedure. They just have to like burn off the top layer. Hanny Dendini says, what is HPV and how is it different from AIDS? HPV is very different from AIDS. You're not going to get cancer from watching this stream. you actually are less likely to get cancer from watching the stream. You're likely to like not get cancer. So HPV is very different from AIDS. HPV is very common. AIDS is not very common. I mean, AIDS is also common, but it's not as common as HPV. HPV is very common, and HPV does not like, it affects your life much less. Like, people can go their entire lives with HPV without knowing that they have HPV. I guess it's like, you can compare it to AIDS in the sense that like HPV can lead to cancer the same way that HIV can lead to AIDS, but Elmo Ziller says AIDS was created by the CIA. That's funny. So it like can lead to cancer, but it's not. But you know, it's like very, very rare for it to become cancer. It's not very rare, but like it's rare. It's rare. It's not common, but it's also like, with the resources that we have now, you can, like, as long as you just keep going to the doctor, keep getting checked getting checked up. Why are you all so uncomfortable with this stream? I am preventing you from getting cancer. Oh my god. You people are so ridiculous. Okay, so how often does HPV turn into cancer? Why doesn't it say? Okay. Oh my god. I hate these like articles that Felix says, at least no one in the chat is asking Pardes to examine them. Everybody is so uncomfortable about this topic. And you know what? The fact that people are so uncomfortable with this topic makes me uncomfortable, because it makes me think that you are not very likely to go and get tested or to go to the doctor and check to see if you have abnormal skin cells that you may have contracted from coming in contact, just skin on skin contact with someone who has HPV, who might not even know that they have it. All right. Okay. Rates of male. Okay, so approximately. So we actually don't care about genital warts HPV. We don't care about that, because genital warts HPV, if you have genital warts, you are not going to get cancer from that. The HPV that we care about is the type that causes cancer. And that's the one that Marcia Cross and her husband have. That's the one that caused them to have cancer. And it clears away, by the way. You don't have like HPV your entire life. It clears away. You have HPV antibodies that stay, but that's not like gonna kill you. It's HPV antibodies. But the HPV itself is supposed to clear after 1 or 2 years. If after 2 years it hasn't cleared, that's likely to become cancer. And the way you know it is by getting a pap smear. but you can only tell in your cervix. So if it doesn't go away in the cervix, that's how you know. But there's no way to tell on your penis or in your anus or in your throat because so little research has been done and so little progress has been made. So if you're a guy, you just need to get the vaccine because prevention is important. Treatment is going to be a lot tougher if you get it. If you get it and it becomes cancer, which is very rare. Very, 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 very rare. Penile cancers represent only 0.4 to 0.6 of all male cancers in the US and Europe. Almost 100% of basaloid and warty penile cancers are associated with oncogenic HPV types, whereas only 30% to 40% of verrucous and keratinizing squamous cell cancers are associated with HPV. I really do not know what those words mean, but you're only likely to have only 0.4 to 0.6 of male cancer. I don't know what those kind of cancers are. Approximately 20% of men have HPV DNA detected in the anogenital area. Wow, so you can actually get it tested. I guess if you can get it tested by going and doing like some sort of biopsy. Alex says, weren't you pre-med or something? Yes, I was pre-med. Thank you for knowing that. I was pre-med. I actually went like halfway through the med school applications, and I even like went through the application with some schools, but not 100% through. Like I basically last minute like flaked and decided I don't want to go to med school, at least not now. I don't know if that was a good idea, but like I'm really happy now, so probably was a good idea. And if I was still in med school, like being a doctor is hard, and I mean being a doctor is great, but like I'm sure it's great from what it sounds like, but thank you for reading my blog, Alex. But like med school and the whole process and residency and all that stuff, like it takes up your whole young life and you don't enjoy it as much. How to know if you have HPV, if you are female. You know how you know? Aside from the pap smear, you can tell if it smells. And sorry to be graphic, but I think also, 1 second. So it's really weird because younger women are likely to get HPV, but for men, it's older women and younger women are equally as likely to get it. It is true whether you are heterosexual or not heterosexual. And the reason for this is that men do not develop adequate immune system responses to maintain protection. Studies have shown that at all ages, antibody levels are lower for men than women. Alternatively, men may be having more new sex partners than women. In comparison, rates of HPV DNA detection in the oropharynx are much lower than reported for anogenital infections. Most studies have published prevalence rates of HPV in the oropharynx around 4 to 5%. These figures are likely underestimated since Most studies sampled the buccal mucosa or tongue, whereas HPV likely resides deep in tonsillar crypts or at the base of the tongue. So, this is according to the NIH. According to the NIH, Elmo Ziller says 70% of people have chlamydia. I think chlamydia is treatable with antibiotics. I think it's treatable with antibiotics. Let's double check. Chlamydia. Whew. Okay. Chlamydia treatment. Antibiotics. I knew it. Wow, you can get chlamydia in your eyes. You get chlamydia in your eyes. So okay. So they say like HPV is to straight people as HIV is to not straight people. Felix says, how does chlamydia get in your eyes? I don't know. What happens if you get chlamydia for too long? If untreated, chlamydia can develop into serious reproductive and other health problems with both short-term and long-term effects. Like the disease itself, the damage is often silent. If in women, untreated infection can cause pelvic inflammatory disease, PID. So I was reading a book called it's called Let Me Loose. Let Me Loose. Oh, Cut Me Loose. It's called Cut Me Loose. So anyway, in this book called Cut Me Loose by Leah Vincent, she grew up in a very similar community to what I grew up in. She grew up in a yeshivish Jewish home in Philadelphia, but she grew up in a more religious home than I did, like even more. But so she writes in her book, very, very thankfully, we should be very grateful to people like her who are open about the stuff. So, Cut Me Loose by Leah Vincent. Cut Me Loose by Leah Vincent is a book that it's a book that about this woman, Leah Vincent, who she left the ultra-Orthodox community. She moves out of her home in Pennsylvania. She goes and lives in Brooklyn, young girl by herself. She's like 17, hanging out at a park. She's really scared, doesn't know what she's doing, and doesn't know anything about sexually transmitted diseases. Makes friends with some crazy, dude in a park, like drug head in a park. And it is a book called Cut Me Loose. It is a book. So, so she's at this park. She makes friends with this guy who's like total just on drugs, and he pushes her in a very predatory manner to have sex with her, and it almost like he gives her drugs and then he has sex with her, and then so she she's frightened, whatever. She doesn't call anyone. She can't call her parents because they're very religious. She's gonna get in trouble. She's gonna go to hell. So she doesn't call anyone. She doesn't go to a doctor, and after a while, she develops PID, pelvic inflammatory disorder, and PID. So pelvic inflammatory disease, serious infection in the upper genital tract and reproductive organs of a female. PID can be sexually transmitted or naturally occurring. It can lead to infertility in women or life-threatening complications. So she was actually told that she can't have children, and because of this situation, her parents basically cut her off because she committed a sin, right? According to her community, she committed a sin, and so she was cut out. She was like, estranged from her family, and even when she would go back home, her family would be kind of weird about like her touching the dishes or touching anything that anyone else is touching, and was convinced that she can't have children. And then she later on in life, she goes to this like off the derech group. It's like this support group for people who leave the ultra-Orthodox community. Her book did have like a happy ending, actually, which, ta-da. Tetra says, poor lady, she did something super trashy, face the consequences. That's not fair, because she was 17. She was 17 years old. She's not even an adult. She was leaving her house. Like, a lot of people do stupid things when they're 17. And they have no idea, especially if she doesn't know the consequences. She grew up very religious. She doesn't know what she's doing. A lot of people are like that. So, Tetris Beats seems very, very upset about this. So anyway, she's convinced that she will never have kids. She just, continues her lonely life. She goes and joins a support group, and meets a guy who, had a similar situation, and she's like, but, I might not have, they become friends, they fall in love, and she says, but, I might not be able to have kids. I probably won't be able to have kids because I had this disorder. And he says, I don't care, I want to be with you. And then they get married, and now they have 3 kids. So it was a happy ending. She has 3 kids with her husband, and it sounds like she's happy. But I don't know, where she is in her life, and I don't know how many other complications this has caused in her life. Nobody should have to go through this. And a lot of people make mistakes and do crazy things when they're young and unsettled. A lot of young people are doing drugs. Actually, more young people are doing drugs. Let's see. Drug rates in the U.S. An estimated 24.6 million 24.6 million Americans aged 12 or older had used an illicit drug in the past month. Oh my God, that's crazy. That's like, okay. Nearly 21 million Americans struggle with substance addictions, according to the report. That's more than the number of people who have all cancers combined. And only 1 in 10 people with substance addictions receive treatment points to the significant holes in America's healthcare system. 1 in 7 young people in the United States will face substance addiction. That's insane. Oh my gosh. 1 in 7 people? So everyone is so uncomfortable about this topic of STDs. Do you know that you're so uncomfortable about this topic of STDs, and you're like, this woman, oh no, she did a sin. She was 17, right? And she did this sin, whatever. And she deserves to die and get this consequences for her sins. But more Americans are addicted to drugs than all the cancers combined, than people with all the cancers combined. That's insane. That means that people who are being addicted to drugs apparently is not a sin. Being addicted to drugs, it's a bad thing, but it's not a sin. So you are more comfortable with the topic of drugs, which you should be. You should be comfortable with all these topics because you need to be prepared for everything. But one second. Someone's comment over there. Okay, Mike Carter says there's a drug that actually rewires the brain and bypasses the drug addicted parts currently banned in the US. What drug is that, Mike? So Grift O'Neill says who's uncomfortable? The people who are uncomfortable, I think mostly YouTube. Anyway, it's fine to be uncomfortable. It's fine. It's fine to be uncomfortable, but you should be comfortable enough at least to talk to somebody in your life about it, because it can be a very lonely experience, and especially as we see from this book, from this woman, it can be a very lonely experience, and usually people who are very religious or very not connected to someone that they're comfortable talking about this with, usually those people are at most risk because they're not going to get treated, they're not going to the doctor, and they're very ashamed about doing anything about it, and they basically it's like they see it as like a, so, but it's so common to get HPV. You just have to be on top of it. You have to go to the doctor. You have to take care of yourself, because this is something that's supposed to clear up with healthy immune system. So if you are smoking, drinking, not taking care of yourself, if you are not eating healthy and you're just getting fat. Wow, we've passed an hour, so we have to go. Do you like talking about STDs? I actually really like talking about STDs. We can go on forever. We can do more of these live streams. So, are you guys comparing your bump sizes? I have people in the comments comparing their penile bump sizes. Okay, so next time, let me know if you want more. Let me know if you want more STD talks. These are cool and fun, and definitely needs more talking. We can also talk about drugs, since that's also a big problem. Wow, I didn't even realize how bad the drug problem is. It's worse than cancer. So the takeaway from this stream is definitely get the HPV vaccine, and also go to the doctor, and also talk to people about if you see anything weird or feel anything weird. Blood is like the worst sign, because blood is a sign of cancer. So if you see blood anywhere where blood shouldn't be, it's probably cancer. Go see a doctor, but it's probably, you're not going to die, because these are very low risk cancers. They're the kind of cancers that people don't die from usually. They're not leukemia. So just go to the doctor. And another thing that you have to do in order to not get HPV, get tested regularly, and subscribe to my channel. Because if you don't subscribe to my channel, bad things happen. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. like this video. If you're on Periscope, heart this video. And see you all tomorrow. I've got more videos coming out. I've got these little videos coming out every day, a few minutes long. And tomorrow night we've got our live stream. Tomorrow night's live stream is going to be so cool because tomorrow night we've got ex-CIA agent Dan Gabriel, who's also the director of the film Mosul. It is really cool. He's going to be coming on tomorrow night, and we will talk about his new film. We'll talk about his past. You can all ask questions, and we will force him to answer everything that he knows about the deep state and about the CIA. I think he still actually has a security clearance, so we can't ask him too much. But anyways, you can ask questions, and we will also be doing hookah while we talk. So that should be fun. If you own any hookahs at home, you should do it with us. Okay. See you all tomorrow night.